I'm actually very surprised to see that there are actually people here this morning because actually one of the greatest directors, film directors from Taiwan, Tsai Ming-liang, is talking right now in a different venue here. And I'm like, because when I knew that he was talking here, was like, okay, that means nobody's gonna show up at my place. That made me feel really relaxed. But now you guys are here, so I have to take it seriously. Thank you for having me, festival, and all the lovely people who invited me from Berlin to. I still don't know how to pronounce this city. Can someone teach me how to pronounce this city? The name of the city without butchering the pronunciation. Ji.hlava. So again. Ji.hlava. Ji.hlava. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize if I butcher anyone's name. Yeah, so I just want to make sure I don't want to insult anyone. So yes, my name is Kevin Chen, and I'm pretty sure nobody knows who I am here. And I actually, my book, this book, actually I do have the English copy with me. Is not published yet here in your lovely country, but you will be. And I think it's being translated right now. And I don't know what's going on, but I'm meeting the publishers actually this for lunch. So I think it will come out sometime next year. Let's hope so. So I would just talk about my experience as a Taiwanese writer living in Europe, which is Berlin. I actually write in Mandarin, which is Chinese. I'll talk about that, and as well as Taiwanese. I publish majorly in Taiwan, but somehow this book was my first international, let's say, break. Yeah, because before this book, I was just a very sad writer. I've been writing a lot of books. This was actually my seventh book in Taiwan. And before this book, I never really enjoyed some kind of, I don't know, a so-called success, which was totally fine. Because I live in Berlin. Did anyone here from Berlin, or has anyone been to Berlin? Yeah, so what I love about the city, I was talking to one of the organizers here in the backstage, because she actually used to live in Berlin as well. She asked me, what do I like most about Berlin? And I said, well, the thing about Berlin is that you can never be a loser. You can never be broken enough, because there's simply so many broken people out there. And they're so broken, but they still have their own, I don't know, ways and path and air, and they still have their life. And you don't really have to be a very successful, let's say, posh person in Berlin to find your corners. And that's exactly how I feel the city. I moved to Berlin when I was young. That was 2004. So after 21 years, I actually finally published my first translation, a German translation this year, which is this book as well. So I will just talk about my experience as a Taiwanese writer in Europe and see if you could somehow find my crazy journey an interesting story. Let me see, how do I, yes. So far this book was actually published 2019 December, and now it's 2025. It's just really, I mean, for me to this day, I still think this is a miracle. I have all these translations. The 13th language of translation for this book would be Czech, would be the language of Czech, and which is amazing because I have Japanese and Korean and German and Finnish and Greek, all these crazy languages. And it's a wonderful, seriously, I just want to say it's a wonderful achievement for a writer. But I just want to share with you my journey as a writer, how this happened. Actually, I have no idea how this happened. All I did was I've been writing books, I never stopped, and somehow this book just worked. And so it's been a crazy journey since this book was published. And I just want to apologize for my very dirty balcony on this picture, because that's my balcony. I just, decided like in sometime in summer, I just wanted to place all my translations on my balcony. I just took a picture. And I realized, oh my God, actually I have been doing a lot in the past few years since publication of this book. So I just want to share with you my journey. So this book, that's the English cover, which is a lovely tree done by a lovely Italian illustrator. That's my publisher, Europa Editions. Actually, I don't know if you know this publisher. Actually, they're based in Rome. and they publish books like Elena Ferrante. If you know Elena Ferrante, you know, yeah, nobody knows who she really is because she never reveals her real identity. But I do believe, because I visited the publisher, I do believe that I probably might have met her. I don't know, I'm not sure. But we share the same publisher. And that was the original Taiwanese cover, which is really cute because that, you know, do you see that there's a ghost on the cover, right? It was actually, I just want to make sure I don't block anyone's view. There's a ghost on the cover. It was actually done by a 6-year-old boy who is now not anymore 6-year-old. So it's been 6 years, so he's probably like 11, 12. And he did the cover for me. He drew the snake, which is a very important element in the book. So that's the snake and the left upper corner, in the upper left corner, and ghost, because we asked the 6-year-old how you would imagine what a ghost looked like, and that's what he did. And so this book is called Ghost Town, so it's essentially about ghosts. But before we go into the topic of ghosts, let me just tell you what the book is basically about. It's an autofiction. Can anyone tell me what an autofiction is? I was an English major, so as an English major, you have to learn all these terrible literary terms, you know. And autofiction is a fiction that has autobiographical elements. Okay, so the writer is basically writing a fiction. It's essentially a fictional piece of work, but it's very much based on the author's own experiences. So I'm sure you can think of many, many other books in novels in the world that are autofictions. And so this is an autofiction, so it's very much based on me. I just want to warn you, a lot of writers, we are narcissists, really. We love talking about ourselves, we're so self-involved, and I try very hard not to be that. And if I get to, you know, carried away, please always warn me. But this book is very much based on my own family and my own town, which I call Ghost Town in this book. And why do I want to show you this picture? Who is this? Of course, it was me, right? But I want to show you this picture because it actually says a lot about my family. I was one, so I was born in the year 1976. So, you know, in the 70s and 80s, even the 90s, I don't know if you do that here or in other European countries. It was such a thing before, you know, digital photos or iPhones were even invented. It was very important for the parents to take a 1-year-old picture for the babies as a souvenir. I don't know if you guys do that. But it was a very important thing in Taiwan. It was actually very expensive. And I just want to tell you, okay, I have 7 sisters. Who has more sisters than me here? I have never met anyone who has more sisters than me. I had 7 sisters and 1 brother. My brother was the 8th. I was the 9th. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to take a guess. Why do I have so many sisters in my family in Taiwan? Come on. Yes, that's easy, right? That's wonderful because I've been doing a tour around the world. I always ask these questions, and I got very interesting answers. Like I remember I was in NYU, and these freshmen, because I talked about this, I asked exactly the same question. So I have 7 sisters. So please take a guess. Why do I have so many sisters? And these very naive American freshmen in New York, they just told me that, oh yeah, because your parents really love children. No, try again. Oh, because your parents are Catholic? Why? Oh, that's right. If you're Catholic, you're not supposed to do, you know, I don't know, birth control or something. And there were so many answers. Eventually, there was, are your parents Mormons? That part really confused me. Then I realized, oh, because Mormon, that religion, in many states in America actually allows polygamy. So like usually it's one husband with a lot of wives. It's never the other way around, which is not fair. So they were like, oh, so you probably have, really this girl said, she was from Utah. She said, do you have like 9 mothers? No, I don't. It's from one single mother, you know, and they never got that. And I realized one thing, they couldn't get that because they were 18 a few years ago. They were all New Yorkers, meaning they were pretty much from a different time zone compared to my time zone. Okay, I was born in the year 1976. It was a time when Taiwan still had martial laws. what it was martial law. So, because I was born under martial law. Martial law is a very complicated political idea, but between the year of 1949 to the year of 1987, there was in Taiwan martial laws. And what does that mean? Martial laws was basically reinforced on the society after the Civil War in China. So there was a political party called KMT. They came to Taiwan after they lost the war to the Communist Party in China, and they decided to use Taiwan as, I don't know, a place to somehow find a way to go back to take over that political system, which never worked, you know. But once they arrived in Taiwan, they decided to reinforce martial laws. And this is, I mean, this sounds like really complicated to understand, but I just want to tell you, maybe a lot of you could share the same experience if you grew up, you know, in the 70s and 80s, you know. During martial laws, there was no, it was basically the TV channels were all state-owned, or the newspapers as well. And you cannot express your opinions, and there was only one political party, and there was not such a thing as democratic elections. And so that was the time I was growing up, so it was a very conservative and suffocating environment, and I was from a very small town. So that small town, of course, it was very important to have a son in the family. So this is a different time zone. Though New Yorkers, growing up in New York, girls were being told that you can be anything. You know, you're a girl, but one day you're going to be the president of the United States, which hasn't happened, you know. But, you know, they were being told that could do everything in the world. But women in my generation in Taiwan, no, it was a totally different situation. My mom, as a woman, was basically very much stigmatized as a woman because she couldn't give birth to a son. So after 7 daughters, seriously, this is a very, very bad number because all my neighbors, they all had sons already, but my mom really wanted us. After 7 daughters, they eventually decided to have my brother. That is the 8th one, and finally they had one son, which was my brother. And people always ask, oh, so your parents already had one boy, why would they have you again? Take a guess. So well, it was not an accident, it was planned. I was born in the year of 1976. That was the year of dragon. If you know the Chinese horoscope, you know, we have 12 animals. You know, this is really a common belief in every Chinese-speaking society in Asia. For example, Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, some parts of the Philippines, in Taiwan, in China, of course, in Hong Kong. So it's very important to have a dragon boy, not a girl. So imagine, this is 1975. My parents already had my brother. They were like, if we work hard now, next year we might have a dragon boy. Yeah, so that's why they had me. But yeah, and I want to show you this picture because I was the only one in my family who has this picture taken. Why? Because none of my sisters mattered. Meaning my parents wouldn't want to, you know, spend money on them having their pictures being, you know, taken. So that was a time. And you were like, but what about your brother? Yeah, my brother was like, you know, was very difficult. He was very different from me. We're brothers, but we're so different. He was in a photo studio. This was like, you know, this was very expensive to do that. And he was in a photo studio. I wasn't there, but my sister was telling me that he was really seriously like throwing up, crying, like shitting on the floor and things, you know. So eventually they gave up. But with me, I was just like, where's the camera? And it took one shot, and I had this one, you know. So this picture actually, you know, says a lot that, you know, that it was a patriarchal system. Only boys had their picture taken. Girls didn't matter, and that was me. But I just want to tell you that the trick of the whole thing was that the dragon boy in the family, me, is gay. Yeah, I'm gay. So at the end of the day, because of my sexuality, I became the 8th unwanted daughter in my family. And yeah, that's the story of my life. So this is what the book is very much about, because from my town is a very, very small town. It's called Yongjing. It's in central Taiwan. Even a lot of people in Taiwan have never heard of this town. It's so small that I call it a ghost town. And it's a very, very suffocating, it still is, a place. And the name of the city, I mean, it's not a city, but it's a town, Yongjing. Yong means forever. Jing is quiet. It is living up to the name. It's forever quiet. Yeah. But just imagine that you have a lot of small towns here in this country as well. Sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time in a small town, actually, diversity is not exactly what people are, after. They're not craving diversity. Actually, people in small towns usually they want a homogeneous society. I mean, if everybody looks the same, everybody's doing the same thing, that makes somehow everybody a comfort zone that, people say, yes, we're safe here. So that will apply to my hometown as well. And that's where I was growing up. So I have a lot of traumas, growing up as a gay boy. I mean, come on, look at me. I was a gay baby. Look at me. Yeah, I was like, hi, yeah. But the thing is, the best part about this is that I was actually lucky to have sisters. I have so many sisters. For some reason, they always knew. Even before I knew. They were like, oh my God, he's so different. Yeah, and my brother, on the other hand, it was totally different from me. He was a perfect son for my family. He was first heterosexual. His girlfriend was pregnant when he was 18 years old already, and they gave birth when he was 19, and that first grandchild of my parents was a son. So he was a perfect son for my family, whereas I was the outcast. My parents never really liked me. They had no idea what to do with me. And they were just like, why do you want to? Because, ever since I was a kid, I wanted to become an actor. I wanted to do arts. I wanted to become a writer. They were like, I always remember this. I told them I wanted to write novels when I grew up. They were like, shut up. You will never survive this world, and that's the background of my upbringing. And I just want to tell you that this very small town I'm from, even though it's small, but it's so interesting because one of the richest, really wealthiest families in Taiwan actually was my neighbor. They just lived next door. They became so rich in China in the 80s, and still they're very rich by doing one thing. They went there in the 80s to sell instant noodles. And I saw that instant noodle also in Prague. I'm not sure do you have an Asian supermarket here in here as well, right? For sure you'll find that brand. It's called Kang Shi Fu. I don't know what the English title is, but it's called Kang Shi Fu. It's like the biggest instant noodle brand, which you can find everywhere. I remember years ago I went to Kenya. And I was like, I saw that there in Africa. I was like, this is my neighbor. And seriously, they became so rich that they eventually bought a very, very ugly building in Taipei called Taipei 101. There's a really phallic symbol, ugly skyscraper. I was like, so ugly. And then, of course, they bought it. And they sold it, and they made a huge profit. I remember when they were still owning that building, that you can Google that later. It's called Taipei 101. It's like, they always call it, the symbol of Taipei, which I really don't agree with that because to me, it's really ugly. It's like, why do we want to have it used to be the tallest building in the world for I don't know, 3 days or something. And then Dubai happened and it's not anymore, yeah. It's always Dubai, right? And then, somehow when they owned that building, I remember one time I was taking just a stroll with my sister in Taipei. And my sister just looked up at the building and said, I just want to tell you a story. My father was actually one of the early investor of that instant noodle empire. But at the very last minute, he withdrew the money. So we never made a profit, So I remember looking at the building, my sister just turned to me and said, if our father didn't withdraw his money, we would own maybe, floor number 65 and 66, and you wouldn't have to be a writer. And I was like, oh my God, that's such an epiphany for my life. And it's all because of instant noodle. And that's how crazy my town is. It's a very small town, but there are many, many really crazy stories. That's why I decided to write an auto fiction. And the title of the book in Taiwan is called 鬼地方, which is literally impossible to be translated into any other languages because it's actually not ghost town. Okay, because the English title of ghost town is that when you think of ghost town, a lot of people, especially if you're Americans, you would think a ghost town is like those abandoned towns in the West after the gold rush is over, right? And and they're just abandoned, nobody's there. Now it's a tourist attraction or Instagram hotspot. But no, actually, it's this idea in Mandarin, in Chinese, is a very complicated term. 鬼 is ghost. 地方 actually is a place. So it can, it could be a ghost place. So I just want to tell you that when we're looking for a good title for this book, when we're publishing the English translation, my translator, Daryl Sturck, who is a professor in a university in Hong Kong, we really had a lot of discussions like, what should we have, what kind of title should we have for this book? Is it a ghost place will be the direct translation. A ghost town, which is the final title for this book, or a God-forsaken place, because this term also means a God-forsaken place in Chinese. And it's also a deserted place, a spooky place, a haunted place. And we actually use this term a lot. Like when we're speaking Chinese, this term is really commonly used in Taiwan as well as in China and Hong Kong as well, because in Hong Kong they speak Cantonese. But even in Cantonese, they use this term a lot. When you don't like this place, for example, you really hate this space right now, and you really hate the speaker on the stage, like, oh, shut up! You will say, oh, this is a 鬼地方. Meaning you hate this place. It has nothing to do with ghosts. It doesn't mean that you think this place is haunted or there are ghosts or it's Halloween or anything. No, it just means you don't like this place. So it's a very, very difficult thing. And eventually, I just want to say, it also means hellhole and shithole. Why? Because remember one time we had a workshop, a translation workshop in National Taiwan University, because I was invited. And that was before the English translation was published. And we were discussing like which topic should we go for the English translation. And eventually one professor just suggested that this was during the first term of Donald Trump. So he said something, really quoted from me, he said something like, Europe is a shithole, something like that, right? And shithole actually also refers to 鬼地方 as well. Because that's, when we said this place is a shithole, we said 鬼地方 in Chinese. And this professor just told me that maybe you should go for that shithole for your book. But I'm like, if this book is called Shithole by Kevin Chen, I'm not sure if people wanted to read that, But eventually we went for a ghost town, which was actually a compromise. And I just want to share with you this very character, because when we talk about Chinese, anyone here who speaks Chinese? Or yeah, you're Taiwanese, that doesn't count, yeah. So actually, I just want to say that really, if you speak Chinese, congratulations, because it's a very, very difficult language. It's really difficult, and especially the writing system. So I just want to say that there are two different systems. One is called the traditional Chinese, which is the so-called orthodox system that is being carried out, that is being used in Taiwan. And then the other system is called the simplified system, which is being used in China. Why is that? Because after the Civil War in China, the Communist Party had like an assembly or conference in Beijing. And that was like, I believe 1955 or something. I don't remember, but for sure in the 50s, they decided to simplify all the characters. And their purpose was actually simple. They do believe that because there was a huge population in China, they believe that by simplifying the characters, it would make it accessible for people, even the peasants or the farmers, in the countryside could pick up the language as well. And they do believe that you will make it easier for everybody to learn the language, which is understandable. So the thing is, but the system we use in Taiwan is entirely the so-called orthodox and traditional system. I just want to say that it works in Taiwan. We never simplify that, but we pick up the language. We had to practice this a lot. I just want to say, when you learn Chinese, right, the thing about Chinese is that you have to practice, for example, this very character right here is ghost. How do you learn that? You have to practice like 10, 20, even 11 times. Well, 1,100 times. You just have to keep writing it. It's like drawing. Why is that? Because actually the Chinese characters are pictorial. They're based on pictures. For example, this is a character that is very much based on pictures, imagination. So I just want to tell you the evolution of this very character, which is ghost, which is what the book is about. So it was like this. Can I actually have this? No. The pointer right here. Yeah, right here. So that was how it began. It was found on the oracle bone script, which was actually on the back of some turtle shell. And that was what it looked like right here. Then it evolved, became this and this. Okay, so if you can use your imagination, actually it used to look like this. It's something like a monster with a big, gigantic head, with the body actually was crouching or something, and that was the legs and was the arms. That was the imagination of what a ghost or monster should look like, and that's how they created that character, which is ghost. In Chinese. And I just want to say that the topic of ghost really is fascinating for me. I love ghost because I don't know about the Czech literature, but in Taiwan, ghost is a very important element. And also I don't know, in English literature as well. I just want to talk about Hamlet. Right, actually, Shakespeare wrote a lot about ghosts. How did Hamlet realize that his father was murdered? His father showed up as a ghost, as I was murdered by you. Yeah, and I love ghosts because they're actually convenient literary characters. They could travel through time. They can somehow share all the secrets. They can go through walls. They can be omnipresent. They can be anywhere. And those are actually wonderful, wonderful characters of remorse and regret. So actually, I used a lot of ghost element in this book. And so I just want to say that nobody has ever read my book here in the audience, but this book actually happens in one day. So the time of the book is one day. One day of this. What is this? Okay, so this is a very important festival in Taiwan. It's called Ghost Festival. Okay, so in Taiwan, we believe in ghosts. First of all, do we believe in ghosts? You do. 2, 3, 4. My God, that's a record. Because I was on Thursday night. I just gave a talk in Berlin, and I asked exactly the same question. Those were 3 Taiwanese people in the room, and when I asked the question, do you believe in ghosts? Only 3 people, the Taiwanese people, raised their hand. Basically, Germans. Do we have Germans in the room? Yeah, Germans don't actually believe in ghosts, which really shocked me. Yeah, because why? Because I'm from Taiwan, and we do have seats here. Yeah, I'm from Taiwan, and in Taiwan we really believe in ghosts. And so the year 2004, I moved to Berlin, and before I moved to Berlin, I really believed. I mean, I've been to Berlin several times as a tourist before that, but 2004, I really had a place, and I was here to stay. And there, I was like, you know what? This is weird, because in Taiwan, I do somehow have this feeling that ghosts are everywhere, because we believe in ghosts. But in Germany, in Berlin, I don't feel that, which is so bizarre, because come on, Berlin is a city with a terrible, if it's a person, he's looking for a job, and you look in the CV, the resume, you're like, oh my God, you started 2 wars. You massacre millions of people. You have all these dictators, and after the war, there was, city was divided into half, and it was really a terrible, terrible resume. And there's so millions of people died in the city, and the city was bombed in 1945, basically into, nothing. And they had to rebuild the city. So this city must be so haunted, with ghosts. But I really don't feel ghosts at all in the city. I was like, this is bizarre. Then I realized one thing, because people in Germany, well, not just in Berlin, Germany, they basically fundamentally do not believe in the presence of ghosts. When collectively, the society doesn't believe in that, there's no, some kind of collective consciousness, or it's not in the fantasy, it's not in the bedtime story, it's not in the fairy tale, it's not in the camping, because in Taiwan, when we were kids, we went, camping, what would we do? We would do in the tents, talk about ghosts and try to scare each other, And my mother's bedtime story for me was always a ghost story. To scare me. She would always tell me that if you don't close your eyes now, if you don't sleep now, this ghost will come to get you. So shut up and sleep. Yeah, that was a lovely bedtime story from my mom, which was always like 10 seconds, but it was always about ghosts. So it's essentially the society is full of ghosts, of imagination and fantasy and religions, but in Germany, because it's not in their tongues, not in their fantasies, not in their daily life. So ghosts simply do not have a place to exist at all. That's my feeling. You know, of course, I could be totally wrong. But so I just coming back to the Taiwanese society, we believe in ghosts so much that we have a month in Taiwan dedicated to this culture. So what is this? So the 7th month of the moon calendar, lunar calendar, not the calendar that we know. No, it's the lunar calendar, meaning it's usually August, September. Is July of the moon calendar. In this month in Taiwan, it's called the ghost month. And what, okay, which is not just Taiwan, actually, you can find exactly the same thing in Vietnam. Which is why the book actually is really funny. The Vietnamese translation after being published, it has become a bestseller in Vietnam. And I went there and I realized, oh my God, we share amazing similarities. I mean, the Taiwanese society and the Vietnamese society, they have exactly the same thing. So in this month, what happens? The theory is the gate. Imagine there's a gate, or a door would be too small, like a huge gate to the hell. Leading to the hell is opened, meaning all the hungry ghosts being trapped in there for the whole year are now, and during this month, emancipated. They are free. So they're walking among us. Okay, so in this month, if you want to visit Taiwan someday, but actually because there are direct flights from Prague to Taipei, I would recommend this month because it's really a funny time to go. You will see a lot of bizarre and grand celebration of this, you know, because they're in the south, for example, they actually burn like a huge paper ship. It's made of paper and bamboo and wood, and they will burn it in the dark to celebrate. Well, maybe celebrate is not exactly the right verb for that, but it was in honor of all the hungry ghosts from the hell. So it's a really colorful month to visit Taiwan, even though it's really, really hot in summer. So I recommend the festival, but I don't really recommend the weather because it's simply too hot for me. I hate summer. But one important day during this month is that it's this day. In Taiwan, we call it 中元节. So it's a day of deliverance. What do? We have to prepare a feast. You can see that, you know, on the tables, yeah, there's food. Okay, so let me tell you what my mom and my parents would have done. They were gone now, but when I was a kid, this is like a temple. But we would do that in front of our house, actually. So there's a round table, and we have to put tons of food on that. And my mom would do this. This really is different in every place because every town has different customs and traditions. My mom would place like a bucket of water in front of the table with a towel in there. Why? So that, okay, this feast is not for us, it's for the ghosts. So before they come, imagine, before the ghosts come and enjoy the food on the table, they should wash their hands. So my mom will put that, and this tradition is being carried out by my sisters. And now after COVID, they've also put a hand sanitizer next to it. Yeah, it's like, what? This is crazy, yeah. And so I just want to tell you, this is a crazy tradition, but it really evolves with time. So for example, in the late 80s, I was still a kid. My mom, McDonald's finally came to my town. Well, not really my town, but like we still had to drive like 30 minutes. Like in our county, there's a McDonald's. And my parents got so excited and asked me, like, do you want McDonald's for the festival? I said, whoa. Okay, this is for the ghosts. You know, not for us, you know. So, I mean, of course, eventually we human beings have to consume all the food on the table. But, and so you shouldn't ask her, you should ask the ghosts, you know, what they want. And she was like, yeah, but McDonald's is American, right? And everybody loves American, and we want to be American, so I'm sure the ghosts will be so happy to have some American food. And after their food, they will be so happy that we will have a good year. So they drove 30 minutes to get the McDonald's and come back, so it takes an hour to come back. Imagine McDonald's Big Mac and French fries after an hour. Ugh, it's not delicious, no. But we still put it on the table, and my mom was like, oh my God, we're gonna have a good year. Because you're enjoying some rare American food now, you know. So, and later we even had a KFC fried chicken on that. Buckets of chicken and things. So it was all about fear, basically. So in this month, we had to be so careful that, because ghosts are everywhere. So we usually, of course, now with the young people, they don't really take it so seriously. But it's a common belief that during this month that we shouldn't travel, we shouldn't fly, we shouldn't get married. No, 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 no. Usually you don't get a wedding invitation during this month. And of course, you shouldn't get a divorce. If you want to divorce from each other, you have to wait until this month is over. And a lot of people believe that Taiwan is an island. So what if it's an island? That means everybody's a great swimmer. No, I just want to tell you, no, ask if you meet a Taiwanese, you just ask them. We are horrible, horrible swimmers. And are you a good swimmer? No, we don't swim. Why is that? Actually, it's a complicated situation. So usually we are Asians. Asians, we have a thing. It's not just Taiwanese. It's everywhere in Asia. It's unlike you Europeans. When you see the sunshine, you're like, yeah, let's get naked. Let's get tanned. When we in Asia see the sun, we're like, okay, let's stay away from the sun. And they will have to apply this whitening lotion on themselves to make sure they don't get tanned. Because in Asia, in most Asian countries, if you're tanned, you're associated, you're connected with a working class, which is a terrible, terrible thing, really. So I'm just telling you the truth, yeah. So it's a totally different situation. So, we don't really go to the beach and lie there for like 6 hours just to get tan. I mean, I do now, but, in Taiwan, that's not exactly what we do. But I just want to tell you that when I was a kid, I did want to learn swimming. I do swim, but I'm a terrible swimmer as well. Why is that? So it's summer, it was ghost month. I wanted to learn swimming, and I would just tell my mom, "Mom, I'm going swimming," and my mom would just grab me and say, "No, you're not allowed to go swimming." Why? It's summer, water is there, it's wonderful, and she would say, "No, because there are ghosts in the water, and they'll pull you down, and you're gonna drown." And we still believe in that. It's called 水鬼. Water ghosts. They really exist, in a lot of waters. That a lot of people, when they drown in the waters, people will believe that, oh, they're just being pulled down by the water ghosts. And they still come and believe it in Taiwan. And I'm not saying that it's just like I'm not stigmatizing my society. No, and I just want to tell you that Taiwan is a really funny place. That it's these days when we think about Taiwan, a lot of people think about the computer chips, right? Like the semiconductor companies like TSMC is actually founding a very big factory just at the border in Dresden. And I know that actually Czech government really wants them to come here and found a chip company as well, and that's what they're doing. And you think, oh my God, it's an island of technology. How come you're telling us all about all these ghost beliefs? So I just want to tell you something. In every high-tech company in Taiwan, you can find establishment of superstitions about ghosts. I'm gonna tell you this because they're bringing this to Germany, to Dresden now, because there's a big factory. In every high-tech company, we have a lot of computers here, that's great. Okay, imagine this is like a tech company, right? And all these machines here. In every tech company, you will find things next to these machines. And what are those? They're green, they're packs of corn snacks. Corn snacks, like, it's not exactly like Pringle, but it's like some kind of corn snacks where you can eat and it's called guai guai. If you translate that, that means behave, be good. Meaning, if you place that next to the machine, the ghosts or monsters or whatever in this space would stay away from these machines. They would just behave. And there is actually, I'm not kidding, there's a department of people in the companies who have to make sure that these green, they have to be green because they're different flavors, but somehow they have to be green. They cannot be red, yellow, no, it has to be green, and they have to be placed right next to the machine, and they have to be fresh. They cannot be outdated. So there is a department of, I'm serious, these people, they study engineer, and they're engineers, they got paid like millions of dollars every year, but they have to make sure that these snacks next to the machines are fresh and they're green. And they are guai guai. And the theory is that if you have these things next to these machines, they will behave. They will be guai guai, meaning they will be good and good. And this is because these companies, the Taiwanese companies, they founded factories in Japan as well as in America. For example, in Arizona, in Phoenix, and they did bring that kind of tradition, which confused the Americans. Of course, they were like, "What are you talking about?" But we really believe that. So even in a high-tech environment, we have that culture that we believe that by placing just green snacks next to the machines, we would all the bad spirits or whatever roaming about in the space would stay away from the machines. This is my island. Interesting, huh? And I just want to tell you that because I'm traveling, so I traveled from Berlin yesterday, and so we only have 2 Taiwanese people in the room today. So yeah, you just have to believe me. One thing that because we believe in ghosts, I actually wrote about this in my book as well. One thing that because we really believe in ghosts, and this superstition, this belief actually has an impact on our behavior, our bodies, our physical reactions. For example, I just want to show you this picture because we Taiwanese, when we check in the hotel, we get a room card, right? Before entering the room, we will do one thing. We will knock on the door. Why? There's a very simple theory. We in Taiwan believe that every hotel in the room, the world, every hotel rooms in the world, there are ghosts in there. By knocking on the door, we're giving them a warning, telling them, "Hi, I'm coming in. Please leave the room and don't haunt me, don't bother me." This is serious. So just imagine this, that we believe that in every empty hotel room, there are ghosts lying in bed with a, remote control watching some K-pop drama like K-pop Demon Hunter or something on Netflix and doing karaoke, and suddenly they hear on the door. They were, "Oh my God, people checking into there are actually knocking on the door. They must be Taiwanese. They're so polite." And we really, that's our imagination, that they will go through the wall and they will not haunt us anymore. So, and this is really funny because I had a really good friend. They're married with kids now. But one of my really good friends, she's a girl, Taiwanese girl. She was dating a Frenchman, and so when they were dating, they went to Bangkok, to have a holiday. And before entering the room, because the Frenchman was trying to be a gentleman, he wanted to open the door for the girl, and the girl said, "Don't wait." And he was like, "Oh, what?" And she was like, "We have to knock on the door first." And the Frenchman was like, "Excuse me, why? Why? There's no one in there." And my Taiwanese girlfriend was like, "Yeah, but there are ghosts in there. Duh, we have to knock on the door." And they almost broke up on that day. Really, yeah. So I just want to tell you that it's really a thing. Ask every Taiwanese. Even they could be Catholic or Christians or whatever, they always knock on the door. Last night, I checked in the hotel in the city. I also knocked on the door. I never did until this. I want to show you this picture because, okay, so this is what happened. I was having a book tour for this book in New York City. So I remember I was giving a talk in Manhattan, and later that evening, I was moving to a hotel in Brooklyn. So after this talk, and the college students asked me, "So Mr. Chen, you're telling us all these crazy superstitions in Taiwan. We just wanted to know that, you seem educated. Do you knock on the door when you check into a hotel?" And I said, "No, of course not. I'm a modern, educated Taiwanese. I would never knock on the door." I really, seriously, especially after I moved to Germany, I just somehow stopped practicing that. So I just say no. So I was checking into this really crappy hotel in Brooklyn, which is a lot cheaper. Just in front of my door, I was like, "Should I knock on the door?" No, I'm not gonna knock on the door. I just used the key and I went in and I saw someone in there. And I closed the door, was like, No, I'm suffering from my jet lag. This cannot be real. This is there, And I opened the door again. This person got up and got closer to me. And I just closed the door and was like, okay, this is what, So what the fuck? And I went down to the receptionist, who was a Chinese boy. He was born and raised in America, but he was like, like a summer job. He was like, and I was like, "There's someone in the room." He was like, "There's no one in the room." There's someone in the room. There is no one in the room. And that's our last room today. Mr. Chen, please. I was like, please. And I really had to convince him to come up to, I think it was the 4th floor or something. And then he was like, yeah, sure, yeah. And he opened the door, and then he closed it, and he turned to me and said, there is someone in the room. I said, shut up. I just told you that like 1,000 times there's someone in the room. And he just didn't believe me. And to make a crazy long story short, that afternoon, I was in the lobby watching the whole drama unfolding in front of me. So the cops had to, NYPD, they were really scary people. They had to rushing, try to drag this person out, because obviously he crawled like a Spider-Man or something into my room. And so he was there and all this crazy drama. And eventually he was dragged, he was screaming, he was really strong. He was kicking all of the cops. And after this mess, I had to stay in the room. Imagine that. I did have a feeling that this room is not because of ghosts, but it was somehow haunted. Yeah, it was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So after that, I started knocking on the room. I just want to say that I still have 9 minutes left. After this is not a Brooklyn hotel. So 2 days later, I took a train to Washington, D.C., and I checked in the hotel, and before opening the door, I was like, should I knock on the door? Maybe not. And I opened the door and I saw him. This is DC. And this time I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a picture. And I took a picture and make sure, okay, he's in the picture, okay. But the thing is, I was making noises. He never looked back. I was like, this is too weird. So I closed the door. I was like, okay, this is very confusing. I should have knocked on the door, but I didn't. Yeah, so I went to, again, the same thing. I went to the reception and said, there's someone in the room. And again, the lady was like, there's no one in the room. I said, there's someone in the room. And exactly the same thing happened again in D.C. We went up, and the lady opened the door and said, there's someone in the room. Shut up! People just listened to me. And we went in there, and she was really confused. I was like, there is someone in the room. And okay, to make a crazy long story short, he was the mechanic. He was there to try to fix my air conditioner. But how come he couldn't listen? He couldn't hear me. I was like, but turned out there's a good reason. He was deaf. He was hearing impaired. So he couldn't hear me coming. But I just want to tell you that after these 2 episodes in New York and DC, I knock on the doors now. I really do, because it's like it was too traumatic. Yeah, I don't have a lot of time, but I just want to tell you that this book became some, because I was telling you that I was doing a tour. So this was New York Times. So I'm from a very small, remote town in Taiwan. Because I don't know Ji.hlava so much, but I just got here last night and I took a small walk this morning. I just want to say that compared to this town, I mean, if I was a kid from my hometown and I came here, this would be my New York City. That's how remote and small my town was. There was no library, no bookstores, not a proper place for culture or whatever. And a small town boy like me, I wrote a book and eventually I made it to New York Times. So that was like, this is a really crazy journey. And I don't have much time to tell you my crazy journey. So let's just go through that. So there is a theater in Taiwan. They actually did a theatrical adaptation of my book. And they were hoping to do a world tour. So let's hope that someday we can bring this production to Czech. And this is a temple that I wrote about in the book, which is, I just briefly talk about temples, because if you ever go to Taiwan, you see there are so many temples in Taiwan. And actually, there are 2 different kinds of temples. So you want to make sure you know the differences. One is, you guys, I'm pretty sure you know yin and yang, right? So yin temple and yang temple, what are the differences? Yang temple is actually a temple for gods, okay? Yin temple is actually a temple for ghosts. Yeah, you worship ghosts as well. And this is in my hometown. This is my town. And this is I actually worshiping a ghost. And why? Because actually there used to be a canal here and they found a drowned lady. And the lady was drowned there, just, she died there and they didn't know how to identify her. It was the 19th century and they decided to just establish a temple honoring her. And this is, this space is really crazy. So this is just a part of the whole picture. Next to the temple is actually a slaughterhouse. where they slaughter the pigs. So when I was a kid, this is on my way to the school. And when you slaughter a house, not anymore, but when I was a kid, they have to do that like 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. It was always believed it has something to do with ghosts as well. Somehow you always have to do that in the morning. And in the morning, you see some people chanting some religious whatever things there, and there are people next to it slaughtering pigs. And so the chanting, the religious chanting, will be mixed with the howling and screaming of the pigs, mixed together. And because imagine this was early 80s, so it was a different time. The pig blood would be on the floor, and there will be like a river, and they would just flood all the way to the temple. And that's my environment. I have to write a book about that, right? Yeah. So it's really, really crazy. So we don't have that much time talking about this, and these are all the things I did. That was a Greek, that's Polish, that's Vietnamese, and that's Japanese. That's French, and that's Le Monde, the newspaper in France, and that's Korean. In July, I went to Korea, the book fair. I just finished the Frankfurt Book Fair, and so I did a lot of book fairs, and I just want to talk about this because Korea is, I don't know if you guys know something about Korean culture, because now we are talking about Korean culture, right? Like K-pop Demon Hunter, and they have great artists and everything, but essentially it's a very male-dominated conservative society. It's very difficult to be a woman in that society, and it's very difficult to be a sexual minority in that place. And but somehow my book, which is it's really a crazy book, found its way to Korea and become some sort of big bestseller in Korea. And I'm some kind of controversial character there, because when I was in the book fair in Seoul in July, I was on the big stage, and because I was a foreigner, so I could do that. And so on the stage, I just said really loud to like 1,000 people. I said, "Hello, I'm gay." And this aggravated a lot of people there. And before I left the country, I got a lot of death threats on the internet, seriously. But I just want to, but I do believe that literature is somehow something that could open doors, because it did open doors for me. Because if there are more than 30,000 people buying this book in Korea, that means there are a lot of people who are willing to change the situations. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for. So we don't have time for that. That's finished. We don't have. What's interesting is this. That's Ukrainian translation of the book, and it's a weird situation as well. After the book was published in Ukraine, I got a lot of response, and my publisher told me that it actually went to the 3rd print already. And it's really bizarre. And the wonderful story was just that they got all these drone attacks, and one attack, one day in the morning, I got a Instagram message from someone saying that she heard middle of the night the siren, and she was like, okay, should I go down to the basement for the shelter? I was like, okay, and then she just grabbed my book, and she finished my book when she was in the basement, hiding from the drones, and which turned out to be a good decision, because her neighborhood was actually bombed. And she finished the book, and she wanted to thank me for writing this book. And somehow, as a Ukrainian, she found a lot of connections to this, which really surprised me. So I just want to say that this is a whole new experience for me, and I'm still on the tour because my German publication just published, and I'm going to all these places in the world, and I just we don't have time for these things, and this is a weird experience. Like now, we have 2 minutes left. I'm here in a city that I cannot even pronounce, like Ji.hlava. I'm sorry, I apologize. And I'm here, why? Just because I wrote a novel based on my own life. And I wrote about my childhood and my trauma and the superstitions and stigmas. And Taiwan is a society that Saturday in Taipei, we have the biggest LGBTQ plus parade in the city. And our president, William Lai, just had an official statement congratulating all the diversity groups in our country, celebrating this, the biggest one in Asia. And that was because of 2019, we passed the law. So so we have marriage equality, and we were naive. We believed that. Oh, well, we did that. So it will be a domino effect in Asia. So maybe Korea and Japan, other places will pick up. We were just naive, last year, Nepal passed some kind of law, but it was not complete. So it was still difficult for them, especially they're going through a political turmoil. And this year, Thailand finally passed the law. So it's starting to change, but it's still very, very difficult for Japan and South Korea, really. China, no. In China, what they're doing now is, I want to support writers in China because they're arresting, this is real, I'm not making this up. Chinese government is arresting BL writer. What is BL? BL is boys love. It's a very special genre. Okay, it's written usually by women writers about gay couples, but it's not meant to be read by someone like me. It's meant to be enjoyed by women. And it's a huge thing in Asia. It's coming to Europe slowly. So there's manga, there's story, and basically it's called boys love, but it's pure imagination. It has nothing to do with real queerness or whatever, but it's imagination. And Chinese government starting from last year, they're arresting women writers just dedicating to this genre. They didn't do anything. They just sit at home and write boys love, and they were arrested. A lot of them had to pay a huge sum of fine, and a lot of them even went to jail for this. So I want to say that this is 2025, and there are still writers going to jail because of what they write. This is horrible. So we should always remember that writing is about emancipation. I'm here because I emancipated myself in the form of writing, and it's a wonderful, exhilarating experience that I get to travel around the world because I wrote something, about my hometown. So I'm here, and I don't know if you agree with me. You don't have to agree with me. What I love about this world is that people can disagree with me, and it's fine because that's a great place to start. But if we can initiate a conversation with literature and books, it's a wonderful common. Comfort zone for me. So thank you for listening. Time is up. And so do we have, if you have any questions, just give me a quick response and I will just say something really fast and I will let you go. Anything? Yes, please. Yes, do I feel free in Berlin? Yes, I feel free. I wouldn't have been able to write this book if I was still in my hometown. No. I remember when I was, after finishing college, I went to university in Taipei. And that summer I came back, just, spent some time with my family. And there were so many matchmakers coming to my door. They're trying to find wives for me. Really. And they were like, oh my God, he's the young son, he's back, we should a wife for. And then I was evil already. I was scaring these matchmakers away. I was like, hello, I like boys. And they were like, what? What do you mean by that? And I said, well, yeah, I am gay. And the thing is, a lot of people, matchmakers in the small places in Taiwan, they have never heard of this. It doesn't apply, to their system. They were like, what do you mean, And they were like, I was like, okay, should I do a PowerPoint presentation for you, telling you what this is about? And I scared them all away, And so if I were still there, there's no way I could have, liberated myself from this whole thing. So I feel very free in Berlin. I just want to say this picture. This is Brooklyn Book Festival, and it's really funny. That was last year or something. Yeah, I was in Brooklyn Book Festival, and it happened in a Catholic church in Brooklyn. And the people, we have people, organizers here helping, and the technicians. And that church, you guys were priests. Really, they were wearing the priest thing. And I just want to tell these people, I want to tell you that I went to a Catholic university in Taiwan. It's called Furen Catholic University, and it's very fun. It's a very good one. Actually, it belongs directly to Vatican in Rome. I'm not kidding. So it's a very Catholic one. And so I was in the Catholic environment talking about my book. I was, okay, this is my chance. So I stood up in this Catholic environment and just said, I'm gay, yeah, like this. And then, of course, imagine the Brooklyn or the New Yorkers, like, yeah. And the fathers were like, shut up, what is this, you know? And I was really mean, you know. And then the host, the moderator was like, I'm pretty sure all the fathers are gay as well. And it was just so awkward. But we're just the worst people in the world. We just basically ruined the whole place, you know. I'm pretty sure they would not allow Brooklyn to do this anymore in this church. But I just want to say, yeah, after this, I can do this. Even in Seoul, you know, where I got death threats. Seriously, someone said if he wanted to kill me in front of my hotel. So even I could do that. So I think just that's why traveling or going away is such an important thing to do, because you get to see the world. You realize that it's not just this small confinement of your world. No, this world is so big. There's so many different voices out there. So yes, I'm a free person now. Can we take one more question? I will let you go. Yes, please.
About your siblings, did they stay in your home?
No, only one sister stays there. Yeah, so basically everybody's gone, but one sister still lives there. And it was a weird experience because I wrote this book and my sisters, my siblings, they will always support my books. They will buy my books, but they will never read my books. Because they were like, you know, they try and they were like, oh my God. It's so literary, it's so boring, it's so serious. And they would never read it, but this one they actually read. Why? Because relatives are terrible people. They read the book, and they never did, but somehow because the book picked up some kind of reputation, so they read the book, and then with the book, they went to my sister and said, oh my God, did you know your brother wrote about you? Your husband hit you? Oh my God. And my sister was like, what did he do? And they actually had to, it was an awkward situation because it's roughly based on my family. So it's awkward, but they read it and they realized it's a fiction. It's not really like a documentary because we're here for documentaries and films and everything. It's not a documentary. So it's a representation of my family portrait. And they were like, it's not really, it's me, but it's not really me, or whatever, you know. So it's a really awkward situation. But this sister of mine, my older sister, still lives in the town. She somehow enjoys this now because, you know, when she goes to the market and things, they will give her free things and say, oh, there's all these things, you know. And one time at the supermarket, yes, we have a supermarket in town now, where she, you know, bought a few things, and the cashier decided that you don't have to pay because I just read your brother's book. And my sister was like, can I grab more things? And they were like, oh, no, yeah. So this is a weird situation. And this book will be published soon in Czech. So I hope someday you will have the chance to read the Czech translation, because it is weird, because I to this day, like I just, you know, because I just did an online thing with Firenze, with Florence in Italy. It was published in Italy as well. Someone just told me online in the audience that this book, to a Taiwanese small town, was exactly like his town somewhere in Tuscany. And it's equally, you know, conservative, and their superstitions, come on, Italians, they have a lot of superstitions too. And the gender imbalance and everything, they also wanted to have a son and everything. I was like, that means my ghost town is your ghost town. We are all from a weird place. We're all trying to get out. We're all trying to be free. So at the end of the talk, which, you know, I'm sorry for the overtime, but I just want to tell everybody that I wish everybody freedom and liberation. Hopefully someday we can get out of our ghost towns. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.